Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Vocal Action Podcast where community and culture collide. I am your host, conversation catalyst, Rashana Rocha, Vocal Action. And today I have with me Amethyst. Did I say I said Rashana Rocha, Vocal Action? Oh, it's because I said Jackson because it rhymes with Jackson. Um, I'm your host, Rashana Rocha Vocal Action, and today I have Amethyst Jackson. uh,
Hey.
yes, of Black Sapphire Gardens and Aliviyah Blis here, and we are going to talk about environmental stewardship. So, before I get into what environmental stewardship is, because Amy, as I'm going to call her, because that's what I know her as, has introduced me to, I just wanted to give you all a little background. As you know, this season 3, I'm really focusing on highlighting people that I know who I feel deserve a spotlight for the things that they do. So, I met Amethyst as Amy in I don't even know 2015,
13.
13. Okay, yeah,
Fall of 2013.
yes, exactly. 2013. She and I worked together for a DC local nonprofit, and we developed a friendship. And over that time, it has just been really great to see Amy grow into a wife, into a mother, and now an environmental steward. And so I really just want to talk about really where all of that comes from, where that love and not fear, courage, because I'm very much afraid of outdoors. I want to talk about where that comes from, and just so that other people who are interested in doing something that sounds from how you explain it very simple can make a great impact to them individually, their family, or even as a career. So welcome, Amy. How are
Thank you
you?
for having me, Rashana. How are you?
I'm good. So first I want to talk about what is an environmental steward, or what is environmental stewardship? What does that mean?
So I would say that my definition of environmental stewardship is really just being aware of some of our not just carbon footprint, but the effect that we have on the environment around us. That could be something as simple as making sure that we're not spraying our yards, that we're planting more flowers or planting more trees. You know, back in the day, they used to call them tree huggers. Um, but people who are just more aware of what is happening, not just on a local scale, but on a global scale,
Mm-hmm.
and just being aware of all of the things that affect us because we're all connected. I feel as though, when God put all of us here, he was like, yeah, you have dominion over all of this, but with, great responsibility, that means that you also have to be aware of what you're doing. Like, just because we have domain over it doesn't mean that we can just do whatever we want and we can abuse it.
Yes.
Part of my environmental stewardship journey has also been just about trying to find more alternative ways of living, like in a more natural way,
Mm-hmm.
that is not riddled with as much unnecessary, like, negative chemicals and things that don't have to be in things.
Okay.
I know that all chemicals are not bad, but we do have an excessive amount that we use here in the United States, I would say.
Okay. Okay. Good. That was a good definition. Um, so where where are you from? And how did you come into this awareness? Is it relate like Can you talk a little bit about your where you're from, your childhood, your upbringing, the
Hmm.
journey to this stewardship?
Um, it's really interesting because I don't know if I would say it was even necessarily like how I grew up. Like my dad was in the service, so he was in the military. We're a military family, moved around quite a bit. And when I was 10, we moved to Erie, Pennsylvania from Los Angeles, California. And it was like a culture shock for me because I had never seen snow before and I had never really experienced like cold weather. But Erie is beautiful. Like just the greenery and the trees and the plants and everything that it has, the lake. It's all very, very beautiful. And I think that along my journey of growing into environmental stewardship, I just started becoming more aware of things that were affecting me like externally. One of the big things when I lived in Erie was I had like really, really bad allergies. Once I graduated, I moved to, well, right before I moved to um, New Orleans, Louisiana, I had gotten really sick. And so I had like a really, really bad like sinus infection, which it was very common for me to get these really, really bad sinus infections where I'd get a fever. I'd have a lot of green mucus. I would just be out for the count, but I
Mm.
still had to go to classes, still had to make sure I was taking my exams, but I was just exhausted. And I remember one night I woke up and it was like the third or fourth day of just like a fever, not being able to get out of bed. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I had gotten antibiotics from the doctor and the antibiotics were not working. And I was like, this is too much. And I had, started reading stuff and they were like, too many antibiotics is not good for the body.
Mm.
My mother, who, even though she grew up very old school, my grandmother's very old school. Um, she was like, I think the polar opposite of like, like the old school, which is like, we don't go to the doctor. My mom was the polar opposite, which was, no, I'm taking my child to the doctor. So my
Mhm.
mom took me to the doctor a lot. As my husband says, she has a pharmacy in her bedroom. So if I got sick, she'd be like, "Oh, hey, here you go. You can take this. These are some of your antibiotics that you didn't finish from when you were sick last time." And it's like, I don't think I'm supposed to be taking those. I think I'm supposed to take the whole thing. And she's like, "Oh, it's fine."
I'm the same way.
So
I'm the exact same way.
yeah,
Go
so
ahead. Mhm.
my mom, it was something like that. And so like I was sick, I wasn't getting better. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. And so I remember it probably had to be like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And I basically just went online and started researching like how can I get better. And I saw this recipe for apple cider vinegar, honey, and lemon. You take it, you put it in boil some hot water, you put it all together, you drink it. Most disgusting thing ever. But when I tell you, like I kid you not, I took that and probably within 5 to 6 hours, I felt like 50% better. I
Wow.
took it for the remainder of the day because I at that point I wasn't eating anyways, because I was so sick. And my parents weren't really aware of what I was doing, but I just knew that I wanted to feel better. And so by the end of the day, I felt so much better. I was like, wow,
Mm.
this is like what happened. And so from there, when I went from there after I got done with college, I moved down to New Orleans, closer to my mom's side of the family. And that was at the time where they said that your kids could stay on your insurance until they were like 26.
26,
But
yeah.
because,
Mhm.
but they didn't allow you to do that if your parents were in the military. So since my dad was in the
Oh.
military, as soon as I got done with college, I was dropped off. So
Oh,
I
I
didn't
did
have
not
any.
know that.
Yes. So it
That's
didn't
very
transfer over.
interesting.
Yeah, so it didn't transfer over. So I was out there thugging it out. I didn't have any insurance, just living life. And I'm a
Oh
girl
my
who grew up
God.
with, insurance. So I'm like, anytime I go sick, I get sick, I go straight to the doctor. I was in New Orleans thugging it out. When I tell you, I think I've never been so sick before in my life than when I was in New Orleans. I was sick all the time with some type of
Wow.
viral infection because I worked at Hard Rock Cafe. So I worked around food and people coming in and out, very touristy area. And then I also worked at a mall. I worked at Victoria's Secret. So I was constantly coming in contact with hundreds of people throughout a day. So I was sick a lot.
Mm,
And what I did, tried and true, was that apple cider vinegar, honey, and lemon. And although it didn't always kick everything out, it always made me feel better. It felt like it always cut down whatever it was I had. And then, of course, my grandmother, she came along and she was like, oh, just put a little olive oil in your ears and just put your head to the side and let that go in there. It'll clear all that up. And I'm like, okay, Mama, I don't know if I'm supposed to be putting oil in my ear, and I don't think I'm gonna do that.
did you try
But
it?
I did do what I knew what to do.
Oh,
Um, so I did that. But at that time, when I was in New Orleans, that's when things really started to pick up because I didn't have, even though I was done with college, it was after the Great Recession. So in 2011, when I graduated, there were no entry level jobs. There weren't
mm-hmm.
people who were like, oh yeah, you have a degree, awesome, like we want to hire you. Like it
Yep.
wasn't like that. It was dry. Like when I say dry, it was dry.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yep.
it was very dry. So I was
Yes.
just like, I gotta get what I can get. Um, so I didn't have a job that was your typical 9 to 5 job where I could also have benefits and things like that. So at that time is when I actually started to develop Aliviyah Blis, which was an all natural hair grease. Because I also went on I started my natural journey back in 2000. I had my last relaxer in December of 2010. So I officially started my natural journey January 2011, right
Okay,
before
wait,
I.
wait. Let's back up. Let's back up. I did not know that you started Olivia Bliss that early on.
So I was experimenting.
That's
So I said,
exciting.
yeah, I was experimenting because I was like, I want to find something. Like I was going on like this just crusade of like really trying to live a much more holistic and natural life because when I was younger, I had like a staph infection when I was like 17.
Mm,
They don't know why they had, and it was one of the like I went to the doctor when I was sick, but I was never ever like hospitalized. Like I was a very healthy kid, like no broken bones, never like really had to have a surgery except for when I was like 1. Like that was it. Like I was very blessed to be a very healthy child. So
right.
I randomly, when I was 17, got a staph infection, and it was one of the most painful things I've ever gone through in my life.
Mm,
And I remember the doctor saying, we're going to put her on these antibiotics. Hopefully, these antibiotics work, and she'll be okay. She should be fine. However, throughout that time, when I was in college, I started hearing more about these superbugs and how antibiotics were not working as much for these kids, and kids were dying from staph
mm,
infections and these superbugs, and they were becoming more and more immune against antibiotics. Now remember I said, I have sinus infections and ear infections, so my mom always gave me antibiotics. And at
mm-hmm.
that point I was like, I have to rid my body of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like I just need to bring it down a little bit. So I feel like it was kind of like the perfect storm because since I didn't have the insurance, I had to kind of look outside of, the conventional ways of trying to get
Yeah. The
the things that I
pharmaceutical route.
needed. Yeah. So
Yeah.
even with, experimenting with Aliviyah Blis, I was looking for something that was natural that didn't have a whole bunch of chemicals because I had been having relaxers since I was 3 years old.
Now, did
Um,
the documentary or did the documentary Good Hair or anything like what or encouraged you to say, I want to stop with relaxers?
So I think that the big thing for me was I was already thinking about it, but for one, my hair, I always had like longerish hair, but like I realized it never went to a certain point. It would always
Mm-hmm.
just break like at this one particular point. And I think that I can't necessarily pinpoint the exact time, but there are pretty much two people who are the biggest influencers on me for going that, well, probably three. One was my sister, who always, my older sister, who always was like, I'm going to live life the way that I want to. And so back when natural was like not the thing, like she was afroed out, like, you know, the whole nine. And the sad part about it is there's actually a video of like us going to see her and like she's opening the door. And on this video, because we had a video camera we were visiting, I was like, and at the time, mind you, I was like, you know, maybe 15, 16. I was like, oh my gosh, what's going on with your hair?
Mm-hmm.
Because I had never lived a life, anybody in my family, of like natural hair. Like everybody had straight hair.
Yeah.
Everybody was trying to conform into these beauty standards, because of, this whitewashing that happened with you have to have your hair straight in order to be deemed as beautiful.
And
So,
professional.
and professional. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was not here for it. And I think that seeing her being able to live in that light and be like so unapologetic about it, like I was just like, yes, like now, like once I got older, I realized. And honestly, when I went natural, I was not expecting some of the backlash that I got back. I was so surprised by like people who had things to say about the fact that my hair was natural when I finally went. So when I was in New York, when I started transitioning was my last year of school. So it's the last semester of college. But um the the big thing for me was I started watching Alike Naturals and I started watching nat natural I forgot the rest of her name. But
Mm-hmm.
Whitney, the one who came out with her own hair care line. Okay, sorry.
I'm not
But
aware.
yeah, if
I'm
you see
not
her face,
aware.
yeah, if you see her face, you
Yeah,
know who I'm talking about.
I'm not aware. I've actually never had a perm or a
Oh,
relaxer, I should say. Yeah,
oh
so
wow.
but I used to straighten my hair every other week growing up, and then I had braids in the summertime. And my
Mm-hmm.
mom had my hair straightened mainly out of convenience. It was just easier. My mom had to be
Mm-hmm.
to work very very early. She had to be to work at 5 or 5:30 in the morning. She worked at a hospital.
Oh
So it
wow.
was just easier, for me to just have my hair straightened, or, once I got a little older, learn how to wrap it and just unwrap it every day. But I stopped doing that in 2000, I think 2014. I still do sometimes we'll do I well, we used to call it press and curl. Now it's a silk press. Uh
Silk press. That's what I have right
yeah,
now.
yeah.
Looks
I
a little
still do
wild, but yes.
yeah, I still do it sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
similar to your story, being influenced by um family members and the other people that you may follow. I think moving to DC was a huge influence for me, because it was the first time for me that I saw Black women in leadership, senior management, positions, CEOs, and they had braids. I remember telling my mom
Mm.
when I moved here, like, I got an interview with a program manager, and I'm like, Ma, she had braids, and
Yeah.
I never forget that, because that was that was so new to me,
Yes.
from Boston, like that was not seen as professional. The professional standard was you straighten your hair. Now, once you get in there, you might do that, but definitely not as a member of like senior management, or an executive
Mm-hmm.
position. not in those positions. So that was something new. And so coming here gave me that freedom to say, oh, I can experiment with my hair in different ways and still be professional, still be,
Mm-hmm.
professional. Um, so you started experimenting. You mentioned Aliviyah Blis, which is your natural hair care line, which I have used uh, since meeting you. And I currently use it for my hair as well as my daughter's hair, which is growing lovely. Yeah, we're filling in the pieces in the back that the pieces in the back that were slower to introduce themselves, and also in the front. And so I'm really, really excited to, use your product. So you said you started off with experimentation. Um, how many, I guess, failed attempts did you have, or did you, before you said this is it, and I'm ready to name it and package it and
Mm-hmm.
see if other people like it?
Okay, so um, this is where so the name, um, I'll say about the name first. The name came up because at the time he was my fiance, but my fiance and I were talking about kid names. And I really liked the name Bliss, and I really liked the name Aliviyah, like spelled Aliviyah. And it's funny because I
Spell it for
copied
people, because people might be thinking you're saying Olivia, but you actually are saying Olivia. So
Aliviyah.
yeah,
A Aliviyah.
yep.
So I actually saw the name in a program. I was at my little cousin's uh gymnastics like thing, and I'm like looking through the book, and I see like they have this whole page for like this little girl, and her name was spelled Aliviyah. It wasn't spelled exactly the same way, but it was spelled Olivia. And my mind was blown. I was like, oh, I love it. You know what I mean? And so I
Right.
took it. I snatched it, I snatched it
Yep.
up.
Snatch it up.
And
Snatch it up.
so, yes. And I had like a whole list of names. I was telling my husband, I was like, I like this name. I like this. I like this. I like Bliss. Bliss could be like a little middle name, like, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
so when it came time when I say experiments, I would check to see like the consistency of like I really wanted to make a hair grease that was all natural, because I realized that the ones that a lot of us use, which were was it B&B, Blue Magic, African Pride, a lot of them were petroleum based,
Mm-hmm.
and you know it's kind of like Vaseline. And it's like, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's cool, but it doesn't have the same effect as something that might be like a shea butter with jojoba oil or with
Mm-hmm.
actual essential oils in it. So I
Because it was
wanted
like putting
something.
Vaseline on our scalp.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
like
I
it.
never thought about that until, later, and,
Mm-hmm,
using, um I guess now people say we don't grease our scalp, we oil it. Back in the day it was like, oh,
mm-hmm,
you grease your scalp, now you oil it. But thinking about that, that's so true, because when you oil it, it melts, and it's like your scalp is skin.
mm-hmm.
So, you want something that is healthy for your scalp, your skin to ingest.
Yes,
Um, and so, yeah, I didn't think about that. But you're so right. Yeah, we definitely use those products. Um, and really probably just to lay our hair down even more than do anything else. But yeah.
yeah. I
Mm,
mean,
yeah, so you knew, so you were on that early of,
well,
wanting
I
to go from make a healthy grease.
yes. I think the big thing for me was, and I'm gonna backtrack, and say this is nothing against like my family or anything like that. It's more of kind of like people now call it a narrative. I would just call it kind of like the brainwashing of like black hair being difficult,
Mm-hmm.
and it not being presentable. So
Mm-hmm.
my mom is originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and they have a bigger population of Creoles, or what we would call, kind of like mixed
Mm-hmm.
blood in, in a particular area. So my mom comes from a Creole family, um, who, from, what I understand is some people actually were, passing, and they were just trying to, they were passing, they did. We had individuals who were very colorist and like, don't bring any dark skinned people up in here. We don't want it. Um, and so when I was young, my grandmother, who probably looks more Hispanic than Black, but she's Black, she told my mom, she was like, that baby's hair is nappy and you need to do something to it.
Speaking
And my
about you.
mom, yeah. And so my mom, being like, my mama said I got to do something about her hair because it's nappy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's a lot. It's difficult. She gave me a relaxer when I was 3. And so growing up, a lot of people always mention, oh my gosh, she has so much hair. Oh my gosh, it's so much. I mean, it's pretty, but it's just a lot. It's so
Mm-hmm.
thick. I I gotta like, even when she would take me to people would be like, it take me a whole box of relaxer to get through her head. Like, I have to do her head in sections. It was a lot of complaining, and it made me, I didn't realize how hurt I was about the fact that I just want to
Yeah.
do it on my head.
I was
So
going to ask you that. You know, and you sharing that story, what did you grow up thinking about your hair?
I thought of my hair as a burden.
Mm.
It was just a burden. It was difficult, and there was nothing really appetizing about it being curly or whatever. So by the time I got to the point where I was like, well, I am not going to do relaxers anymore. Part of that, another reason for that, was simply because, I just, one day, I didn't have a lot of money to go get a relaxer.
Mhm.
And I went ahead and just said, okay, I'm not going to get a relaxer. And I was like touching underneath my scalp. So I'm like going like this. And I was like, what is under there? It feels really, really soft. And I didn't realize I had like a massive amount of like new growth that I hadn't blown out, or
Yeah.
pressed or anything like that. And it was very soft. And I was like, ooh, this feels good. I like the way this feels. And from there, I was like, yeah, I
Okay.
think I'm gonna keep going in that direction. So I started going in that direction, and I, at that point, just didn't care how people felt about it. Of course, people had negative things to say,
Right.
but that more came along once I actually did the big chop when I was in New Orleans. So
Yeah. So then fast forward to you have experimented with Aliviyah Bliss and wanting to create um a grease that is healthier for the scalp.
mhm.
Um, you know, we don't want you to give out your secret recipe or anything, but can you talk? Do you remember the first time you knew you had like you got it right?
Honestly, the only thing I can remember is I put it in a glass jar. I remember I did it
Okay.
on the stove, and I remember I was in my grandmother's kitchen, and I was like, this is the bomb. And I just
Mhm.
remember I was like, oh yeah, this is the, like, I think the feeling I felt was like a euphoric feeling of like, oh my gosh, I did it. Like, I made something.
Yes.
And it's like, it's awesome. And I think that feeling of being able to create and make something in a inventive way where you feel like, okay, I did it, like it's my own, is a very like rewarding feeling, and a feeling that like is just like you can't really replicate that feeling. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. What I will say, as a customer, um, it feels it. Okay, let's talk about the smell. The smell is like smells like a citrus morning. Um, that is what I would say it smells like. And the feel is super soft. Like it feels like what you, I guess, like want your hair to feel like, if
Mhm.
that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like it feels like something. It feels luscious, just like you want your curls to feel. You know what I mean? Like it feels
Mhm.
luscious. It feels, um, yeah, that's just how it feels. Like literally, the texture of it. I should have brought some down so I could show people, so I could say, like they do. But maybe I'll do something on the promotion side. But I would say, yeah, it feels luscious. I love the way it enhances like my twist and my twist outs. When I have to admit, I had not used Olivia Bliss in a few years, probably since like right before the pandemic. And I started back up wanting something for my daughter. And I'm like, what am I supposed to use and I immediately thought about you, because it was like, I know her products are healthy. I know she makes these products. Um, and I do want to take a second to just thank you publicly, Amy, because many people who might follow me personally, or you may have heard me speak about this on other platforms. I was diagnosed with CCCA, which is a form of alopecia. I cannot remember what all the C's stand for, but it pretty much is a uh, like a hereditary or gene type of alopecia that
Mhm.
is something that lives within your gene, and it remains dormant until, as my dermatologist says, something awakens it. And so then it forms and
Mhm.
it awakens as alopecia. Things that can awaken it are, poor health, stress. Sometimes it could be something related to tension that causes stress to the scalp that then awakens it. And so when I was diagnosed officially in 2021, um, I was looking for just like support, and not just support, but also safety, because as you know, as
Mhm.
you talked about your journey with hair, and though my journey was not the same, um, hair is very sensitive within our community. We really
It
take our
is.
crowns, very seriously, and for many reasons. Some of it is survival that relates to
Mhm.
professionalism. It relates to beauty in terms of Eurocentric beauty standards. That also goes back to how we are able to survive and have been able to survive.
Mhm.
Just all these different correlations and complexities with it. And so I was looking for support and safety. And I was able to find that with Amy and her products of Aliviyah Bliss. And so I am very thankful to you. It does not irritate my scalp. For those of you who are struggling with sensitive scalp or forms of alopecia, that sometimes putting things on your scalp or on your hair um, can irritate it if it's not the right product. And so it's really good when you do have a natural product that lessens or completely eliminates irritation, which I do not feel irritation with Aliviyah Bliss. So I did just want to say thank you publicly for
Oh,
that.
thank you.
Um, yes, I appreciate that, and just the space, because there were just it was such a sensitive time for me. Um, and I appreciate that. So I wanted to give you your flowers. Uh
Oh, thank you,
public,
Rosanna. That's so sweet.
yes,
Yeah.
publicly doing that. And so in giving you your flowers, I see your background is a pretty sea of green and purples. I'm assuming your favorite color is purple. I see your hair is purple. Your name is
Yeah.
Amethyst. Uh,
Yeah. What gave it away?
right, exactly. Exactly. And so continuing with just, I'm learning some more about you. Like, because I did not know that your journey started with you really trying to um find healing, for your
Mhm.
body and the different health conditions that you faced. And so then starting with the natural products, you now have transitioned. Can I speak correctly? You now have transitioned um into
You got it. You're good.
growing natural
Mhm.
products, and products meaning produce. So really quick though, I did want to ask you in this transition, do you grow any of the products that are in Aliviyah Bliss? Are you able to grow any of those products? Like I said, you don't have to give us
Um,
our recipe, but I wasn't sure. I have.
no,
Okay,
no.
okay,
So,
okay, okay.
so for
And
example, like Alivia Bliss has coconut oil in it. We
okay.
don't have the temperament for coconuts, baby. We up here where it's cold. Coconuts don't like
Right.
us, you know. So no. The
Okay.
closest thing to what I would probably be able to do would be if I had a system set up to where I was making my own essential oils
Yeah.
from stuff that I was growing. But even then, I'd have to have a huge amount
Yeah.
uh of like lavender and different things like that in order to make that essential oil. So to me, it wouldn't be worth it. But
Right. That makes sense. That makes sense.
yeah,
But you do grow produce, right? Would I
yeah,
say that you grow produce? Yeah.
you
So
can
I'm like,
you
I'm
can
like,
say produce. I grow produce.
I know, all I know is that you grow things that I would buy in the produce section. So I just want to make
Yes.
sure I'm speaking the right words. And so, um, yes, in continuation of your environmental stewardship, you have now literally, directly become an environmental steward by growing your own produce, and you now have Black Sapphire Gardens. So
Hmm.
that I've tried to invest in so I can get some produce. Just want to put that out there. Uh,
We're not to that
so
scale. Not to that
what
scale.
made so what made you decide to start gardening at the
Uh,
level that you are? First of all, first,
mhm.
please tell the people, what do you grow? And then we'll get into why you decided to start gardening at this level, because you are pretty high level.
uh, Thank you. I appreciate
Me,
that.
at least,
No.
who is trying to keep a orchid alive. So go ahead.
So I would say, for me personally, my philosophy when it comes to growing food is like grow what you like to eat. But you also have to be mindful of where you live. And so we have tried to do like greens and broccoli and things like that. Those do really well in the fall because
Hmm.
come the spring, if we're planting broccoli and spinach does okay too, but like spinach and especially greens, the cabbage flies love it, and I don't have anything left. So I'm very particular about when I plant certain things.
Cabbage flies.
So
Never knew.
uh,
Never
yeah,
knew
it's
there
like
was
these
a
little,
thing called cabbage
they're
fly.
these little white like moths, and they just lay their eggs on like your greens, and like you'll go and you'll see all these holes, and you look on the back and you're like, it's on here. Yeah, they decimate. Okay, they will decimate your stuff. So for me, I try to do a lot of my greens and broccoli and anything like that. I try to do that in the fall. During the summer, that's when I really get to experiment. And I say that because I really try to figure out what grows really well in where we live at here in Maryland. So we live in a DMV area that's zone 7, USDA zone 7. Um,
Okay.
that's important because when you're looking for particular seeds and when you're looking for particular things to grow, you need to know if they're going to grow in this area. So,
Mm.
quick, just example, we can grow tomatoes here, right? They'll grow here for the summer. However, and you have an idea, tomatoes are going to die at the end of the season. However, if I wanted a tree like a lemon tree, which they sell right at the Home Depot or the Lowe's, that is a tree that will die over the winter. So you have to have it in like a container so that you can bring it inside during the winter. So knowing your USDA
Mm.
zone, grow zone, is important so you can know what you can grow and what will survive. And so I go ahead.
No, I mean, my face is like this because all I can think of is bugs. Like I'm so afraid of outside because I do not do bugs. And the fact that I just learned about a new bug that I never even
It's
would have
it's
thought existed called a cabbage fly,
it's
um,
literally just a little
is
moth.
is
It's just
not
a little moth.
exciting. No, nope.
It's just
It's
a
just
little
not
moth.
exciting. It's not exciting. So, so you grow tomatoes, you grow greens, like spinach. You said broccoli.
So
Um,
I'll go down the
what
list
else?
real quick.
Yes.
So I got on. So basically, we grow fruits and veggies. So all of our fruit that includes that includes multiple blueberry plants. So regular blueberry and two pink blueberry plants. We have multiple raspberry plants. So that's
Mhm.
red, peach colored, and yellow raspberries. We also have strawberry plants, which do very well in this area. We have a pineberry plant, which is like the white strawberry. That
Mm.
sometimes you can see like the now they have them in the grocery store. They used to not be that big, but they're getting bigger now. It's called a pineberry. It's like a white strawberry with red
Mm.
seeds. Some people say it tastes a little bit like a peach or a pineapple, but Kevin and I pretty much agree that it's more like a duller version of a strawberry.
Mhm.
Um, so um, we also have trees. So we have semi-dwarf trees. So we have a peach tree. We have one in the ground. We have two in containers. We have another two apple trees. We have a cherry tree, and we have two elderberry plants in
Okay.
containers. So those are like our fruit, pretty much.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
and then as far as what I grow, like in the ground, that would be watermelon. So this year we're doing 4 or 5 different varieties of watermelon. I want to find out which one does the best in this environment. Because we're in zone 7, we are doing smaller watermelon size. We're not doing the big, huge ones. We just don't have a long enough season to have a big, huge watermelon. But we
Mhm.
can do a variety that's smaller. We can do a variety that maybe is orange or a yellow variety. According to my grandmother, yellow meat is the best. That's what she
Mhm.
loves.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like I wasn't raised on yellow. I was raised on what was at the grocery store. And so
Okay.
red was what everybody ate. But like even people now, they're like, listen, watermelon doesn't taste the same. That's because they pick it early. They pick everything
Mm.
early. So you're not getting the full effect of what it tastes like fully ripe. When you have it fully ripe, there's nothing like it.
Mm.
Nothing like it. And the nutrients is like packed higher too. You know, it just has that chance for everything to really like meld together. So
Yeah.
yeah, we do tomatoes, peppers. This year we're doing corn again because last year it didn't do too well. That was our first year last year. So this year again we're doing corn. We're doing okra. We do white okra and red okra. I just planted some sunflowers. I'm doing more flowers this year, especially in the front to attract more pollinators, to try to attract some hummingbirds because I love hummingbirds. And we always have one that comes like right in our window because we have these canna lilies that grow really tall. But I want to grow more so that I can see the hummingbirds right outside my window. So I'm excited about that.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I'm gonna have to take a trip, and we'll have to do like a little video or something.
Come on
You
out.
and I'll probably do it in the fall or something because I don't want to be there with the bugs. But
Everything's gonna be gone by the fall. You have to come like in
okay,
the summer, like August or something, when
you know what?
everything is like,
I'll bring my daughter. She might enjoy that because she's
yeah.
young. She's not even a year yet, and I would like for her to not grow up with the same fare that I have. Um, so your garden has been able to feed your family. not just literally, you are
Mhm.
able to feed your family, but you've also been able to feed your family like spiritually and in other very, very important ways. Can you talk about just how your garden has impacted your family?
Yes. So, like I was stating before, um, my family, we have like two elderberry plants. When the pandemic happened, I was very that we got elderberry plants like the next year. I was very excited because I was able to make elderberry syrup, and this was before I got the elderberry plants. But once the pandemic started, I was able to get elderberry, some elderberries from someone I purchased from, and I made us elderberry syrup to try to help to build up our immune system. So now I can just make it, you know, from the harvest that I get, and I just freeze it, and then I just make the syrup, and we can have the syrup as needed. Um, Also, um, they're doing more and more studies about gardening and the health benefits that they have. So, for me, for example, I was diagnosed as an adult with ADHD.
Mm,
And now in my life, everything makes sense, right? All of it makes sense. But when I get into my garden, it brings me, I like to tell people it's been very therapeutic.
mm,
It
mhm,
literally is like, I don't know, it's a piece that I really can't explain. It's a tranquility, even if I'm hearing noises from, you know, cars passing or the ice cream truck is passing, having the dirt, having my hands in dirt, smelling the dirt, the microbes, all of those things, they increase your mood. They help with depression and anxiety. They give you microbes that can help you in your immune system. There's so many studies that are coming out showing the great effect that gardening has on the body. And in particular, my son who is autistic, Kevin, my son, he loves being out in the garden with me. He literally, if that means he's just sitting down in the grass, sitting down in the dirt, he'll help me dig some stuff up. He loves eating a strawberry right off. And I was telling him, babe, we have to wash that off. He doesn't always care. He'll just eat it.
really,
So
really quickly, just to clarify, you have a husband, Kevin, because
yes,
we've mentioned Kevin previously, and then you have a son, Kevin. Go ahead.
yes, yes. So my son Kevin, he really enjoys gardening and he loves to climb and he loves to be outdoors, and it doesn't freak him out. It doesn't overstimulate him. Actually, it feels like it does the reverse. When he's
Mm,
out in the garden, like we don't really see him stimming like that. Like he'll stim every
mhm,
once in a while because he's really excited, but he's calmer being in the environment of nature. He asks questions, he wants to help. So I'm like, hey, do you want to help me plant something? And he's like, I'll help. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, let's get our hands dirty. And very early on, when I would see that he would get upset because his hands were getting dirty and things like that, he would start to, sometimes have meltdowns and stuff. We don't have those meltdowns anymore over
mm,
his hands getting dirty. When before it was a lot, but it just got to the
yeah,
point where I was like, this is where we are. We're out
mm,
here in the dirt. Now we can either learn to be okay with the dirt and with our hands being dirty and take breaks to clean it off and get dirty again, or, you know, you can take a moment. So I think that being outside, being in nature, being able to touch things, being able to yeah, taste things, all of those things, along with all of the other um,
health benefits.
benefits that I
Yeah.
taught, yeah, the health benefits, mentally and stuff, has really also helped him along the way. He's excited about the garden. He knows a lot about it, whereas like he was in school and the teacher was like, we're doing garden and stuff. And I was like, Kevin gonna be just fine. He gonna tell her all of the
Okay.
stuff about the garden because he's like, I'm already with it. Like we
Yeah.
carrot, I pulled some out with my mom. You know, like he's he's gonna be fine. But if you just garden flowers, just make
Hmm.
sure that they're native flowers. Try to make sure they're native flowers. If you're gonna garden food, garden what you eat. Like most of
Yeah.
us eat onions, most of us eat garlic, most of us eat peppers, like, and I mean like bell peppers, right?
Yeah.
I have peppers, chop them up, freeze them. I eat okra and stewed okra, and I have this thing called gumbo pasta, and
I was
okra
about
goes
to say, because you're from New Orleans, so I know you're using that okra, girl. Or how y'all say that okra? Yeah, I know you use it.
in.
And do you have a
Yes,
deep?
I do. I
Oh,
do.
okay. Because you keep talking about freezing and all this stuff. I'm like, she must definitely have a
Yes.
deep freezer. Yeah, my
Yes.
dad and his wife, more his wife, she gardens as well. And they do
Mm-hmm.
they my family lives in Boston, and they do cucumbers, um
Mm.
and some other different things. And it is like I said, I'm fascinated. I have just such a huge fear of bugs. That's really what it is that it prevents me.
You know?
But I am gonna start with some plants.
Okay.
Yep, I'm gonna do. I have a plant. I have an orchid that has been here for. I got her in the pandemic, so since 2020, she's still alive. So
Okay.
has restored my confidence in myself to be able to do
Okay.
that. But I love
You
the
could do
tips.
herbs.
I'm gonna try because herbs. What if there's a herb fly? Then am I gonna start attracting herb flies? And
I
in my
personally
house.
don't know about any herb flies because like a lot of herbs actually they actually are like repellent against bugs. So
Oh, did not know that.
thyme, rosemary, oregano, like I don't have issues with bugs with those herbs.
And you grow them inside, or I still have to be
No,
outside?
outside.
Oh, but see, I'm
Outside. But you go outside and you just clip off the top. You have you have your rosemary or you have your thyme. You sit it out on your counter. You can rinse it off first, send it out on a
mm,
paper towel, let it air dry, and then next thing you know, you have,
I have
you
a pot.
know,
I have a pot in front of the house.
dried
Pots.
herbs for the winter, and they're nice and
Yeah.
fresh.
Yeah, I have two pots in front of the house, and I've been thinking about what I want to put in them. Maybe I'll test it out with the pots, and that's cool.
Do
So
it, do it, do
yes, yes, yes.
it.
So now you have Black Sapphire Gardens.
Mm-hmm.
I love Sapphire because that's my birthstone.
Ah, mm.
Yes, that's my birthstone. Uh, and what I ask everyone this when they come on the podcast, what is next? Like, what is the legacy that you want to leave as Black Sapphire Gardens, but also with Aliviyah Blis and just yourself? Yeah, what's the legacy that you want to leave?
I would definitely say that as far as like Olivia Bliss, kind of keep it low key, and really just, the people who want it, it'll be there for. Um, I'm not huge on trying to get it to like all of the masses just because I see how like you have to have a huge amount of capital in order to really push it to go to a lot of these other places.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes things start to like it starts to become like a shortcut. They start cutting the product. And
Yeah,
so for me, I don't
you want to keep the integrity.
yes, yes.
Mhm.
As far as that. So I'm perfectly fine with keeping that small and for people who are interested in not really pushing that on people. And also I know that there's like another wave of people being like, don't put hair grease in your hair. And I don't I don't subscribe to that. Everybody's different, but I don't subscribe to that.
I'm just saying,
And
my hair
then
is doing pretty well. And yours looks like it's doing pretty well as well. So
yeah, I personally don't subscribe to that. I'm like, put your moisturizer, whatever your moisturizer of choice is on, and then use your Aliviyah Blis, on your scalp, and as your sealant to seal in those juices. That's what I
Mhm.
say. Um, and as far as Black Sapphire Gardens, the big thing what I really want people, I guess, to really understand is to not be afraid of the dirt, because I don't want us to become so like sterilized that we are no longer connected to nature, to all of the health benefits, um, and to just, working hand in hand and understanding how it works.
Yeah.
One of the big issues, and I could talk about this forever, so I'm trying to make it short. Okay, Rashawn, I'm trying.
Okay. Thank
Um,
you. Yes, please.
one of the big things I think that a lot of people, especially like in the States, we're realizing is that it's not just walking that's gonna fix us at this point.
Mhm.
It's diet. But we live in a overly processed world. We live in an overly processed food industry. So, you go to the grocery store, if you stay on the outer banks of it, you'll be okay. However, even if you look at just like the space that like regular vegetables have and fruit, it's a very, very small section. Most of the grocery store is filled with
You're right.
processed packaged food.
Mhm.
Even when you get to the frozen section, it's
Mhm.
frozen food that's been processed. Even when you get to, the milk, the cheese, the all of that is processed. Whereas if you look at, you know, processed and processed with things that they allow in the United States that other
Mhm.
countries don't allow. So there's people who literally are like, I'm gluten free, like I have gluten intolerant and all that stuff. They go to Italy, they go to Greece, they go to France, and they're eating gluten every day. And they're like, I haven't had not a single issue. They're like, I eat the same things that I eat in the United States here, but I've been losing weight. I don't
Mhm.
feel as sick. I don't feel as bloated. And it literally is because even if you go and get bread, the bread just has a lot of additives that it doesn't need. But the great thing about this journey, I think, is I started off as, for Mother's Day during 2020, I told my husband, I want a peach tree. And he was like, girl, what? I said, yeah, that's what I want. We picked me up a peach tree. By the end of the summer, I had, got a couple of strawberries and I had gotten a couple herbs. That's kind of like what I started off with, like fully my foot in there. The pandemic happened and it freaked me out because I had just had a baby, and I'm in the grocery store and I'm seeing that some of these shelves are looking a little bare. And I'm like, what's going
Yeah.
on? And I started getting scared because I was like, I don't
Mhm.
know what to do, like I don't know what I could get. I don't know. And so at that point, I was like, oh no, I got to do something. And so from there, the next year is when we started doing peppers and tomatoes, and we did okra, and we did watermelon, and that was like the first things we started. But then I also started getting the berries and everything. But with that, a berry plant might cost you might get a blueberry plant for $12, and you plant it, and you're like, it's not really that big. Doesn't have a lot to it. Next year, that one berry plant that cost you $12 might have enough fruit on it for what you would have spent getting the little blueberry containers at the
Right.
store for
Mhm.
$4 or $5 a piece. That blueberry plant may have paid for itself, but now you have
Yeah.
a plant for however many years, 10, 20 years of fruit that you don't have to buy. And so people will say like, oh, it's just so expensive, and it's like it's kind of expensive when you start off, but if you like, it's not as expensive as you think,
It's an
because you can
investment.
get, yes, but you can get you can get seeds for really cheap. You can get like you can get so many things for really cheap. You know, sometimes you just have to kind of look outside of the box. I always say if you want to get blueberries, raspberry plants, stuff like that, get them at the end of the season. You know, Home Depot and Lowe's, they have them for like really cheap, and
Mm,
it's something that you can get for your family to start off your garden in a really small way. It doesn't have to be big, you know. But I guess overall, just really want people to know that we are the change that we want to see.
mm-hmm.
You can start off small. You can, you know, it doesn't have to be huge. You can just start off with one thing at a time. It doesn't have to be a big, huge garden all at once. And I am proud of what we do because I know that, you know, in the future, it's just going to grow. And, um, and I really want to be able to sustain my family in a bigger way than we are now.
Love that. Love that. Well, oh, I'm hearing an echo all of a sudden. Thank you so much, Amy, Amethyst of Black Sapphire Gardens, for taking time to explain your story
Thank
to
you for
us
having
here,
me.
of course, here at the Vocal Action Podcast. You definitely always, every time we talk, you inspire me. Um, to try to get out there. I'd much rather just pay someone. I'm not gonna lie because I'm so afraid of bugs. But you know, I do have those two pots in the front that I've been trying to figure out what I'd like to do. So there, you know, there's probably an opportunity somewhere there for me to try something. Uh, that said, thank you so much for being here, sharing your story of environmental stewardship through your journey and now Black Sapphire Gardens. I definitely look
Mhm.
forward, as well as I'm sure all the listeners look forward to seeing and seeing where you go with this. And for those of you all watching, you can follow Amethyst's journey at Black Sapphire Garden. You see it right there on the screen. So make sure you follow her on Instagram. And are you on any other social media platforms?
Just Instagram.
Okay, yes. So you can follow her on Instagram for tips and tricks. And you can also follow her so you can slide into her DMs if you're a person that wants some Aliviyah Bliss. Until next time in the next episode, we say peace.
Peace.